All right, good evening, everybody. Craig Greenwood here again. Another view on the world that we find ourselves in. It's just on dusk at the moment. Quite cold here today at Taupo, New Zealand. And we had a kind of a chilly wind that just went through everything, which kept it quite cold. Just been for a nice run, which was good as well. And thanks a lot, big shout out. Thanks for everybody who's been watching. Subscribers, we've just hit over 1,000, which is amazing. So it is for me anyway. So thanks very much for that. Right, so what are we talking about today? So I want to talk just about a couple of things. It's going to be a little bit disjointed maybe, but the first thing I want to talk about is just going on from the last episode, which was including some of the stuff on the budget. One of the things that I suppose you all probably noticed, but obviously too scared to say anything about because of what other people might say. Did you notice that the government gave a huge amount of money to Maori? Now, to me, that's just, I've had something. I've always thought that our country is very, very racist for a long, long time. And of course, a lot of people, when you say that, go, oh yeah, you know, there is racism against Maoris or whatever. But no, it's reverse. What is the definition of racism? The definition of racism is when you treat one race differently from another race. And it's what we do with the Maoris. And you know, it's amazing to me that we get away with it and people think it's normal. I mean, to have Maori seats, Maori All Blacks. I mean, if you put it in reverse and it wouldn't work, people would say it was racist, then what are we doing it for? You've really got to ask yourself, and does it make our country better or closer or bring different, nationalities together? Of course not. It makes it, just divides it. And I can't believe that in this day and age, people can't see that having a separate thing for a particular race, A, that's not racist, and B, it just divides. It just really does. But of course, we're so used to it nowadays that we can't comment on it, because if you do, you'll get called a racist. And I've even heard people say that, especially the right, the far left and everything else, is that if you're Indigenous or if you're black, you cannot be called a racist, which is totally wrong, of course. Anybody can be called a racist if they are. And so then you have this white privilege stuff, which is totally bollocks again. So I know I'm probably going to get slammed for saying this and everything else, but for any country, New Zealand included, to go on and go forward, we must treat all its citizens as equal and the same. Now, we're not responsible. Nobody is responsible for what their ancestors did or didn't do, because obviously that doesn't make sense, does it? If your ancestor was a murderer and he got jailed, you're not responsible for that. And so it doesn't matter what your ancestors did or didn't do, you're not responsible for it. So therefore you can't bring up the past and say that somehow we owe whatever to someone else, because it's ridiculous. We're all New Zealanders right now. We should treat, if you are a New Zealand citizen, you're treated as one and done. And that would go such a long way in order to make our country more pleasant to live in. And of course, I don't blame the Maoris out there who jump on the gravy train. I mean, you can't blame them. We let them do it, and it's good money. It's really good for them. I mean, why wouldn't they? But I mean, you need to grow some balls. If a government came along right now and said, that's it, we're not going to have any more racism in New Zealand, we're going to do away with Maori seats, anything that Maori have a privilege of, all that kind of stuff, they would slide in big time, because a lot of people, I think, I could be wrong, but a lot of people have my opinion and view, but just too scared to say it, which is a real shame. So again, I consider myself not a racist. I think we should be all treated fairly and evenly, which is of course the totally opposite to what we do with Maori. So hopefully one day, I can't see it in my lifetime, but it'd be nice to think that all New Zealanders are treated the same. We have the same opportunities, we have the same laws, we have the same everything. And that would be really, really nice. So I don't know what your views are on that, but I think that needs to be said more, and said more in public. And we need to abolish Maori seats, and anything that Maoris can do that we can't, we need to abolish it, get rid of it. And it won't happen unless people like myself and you guys, if you agree with me, say so. And the more people say it, the more traction it gets, and over time it slowly becomes to be. Whereas at the moment the norm's gone the opposite way. Everybody's shut up about it, haven't said anything, and we've allowed all these things. Now once you allow something to come in and no one says anything about it because they're too scared, then of course what happens over time, that whole thing just carries on worse and worse and worse. Now I mean, I've obviously got into trouble all the times with, so I've got a young daughter going to school, and a few years ago she was telling me that they were teaching the national anthem. And I thought, that's good. And she goes, yeah, but they only taught it in Maori. And I go, what? Yeah, because apparently we know the English version, which they didn't. And so the school taught the national anthem only in Maori. So I went to the school and said, we're bilingual, we're both languages. If you're going to teach it, you must teach it in both languages. And they said, oh no, well, we just assume the kids know it in English. I said, well, they don't. How the hell are they going to know it? And so that's how those things creep in, and let by its own accord. They would hope, and all those people that want to go down that line would hope that within 20 years, the national anthem is only sung in Maori, not English at all, which to me is totally wrong. That's not what it's about. So we need to stand our ground and include everybody, and not keep people out and everything else. So that'll be interesting. I mean, one of the things, of course, going on from that, I mean, the world was leading to this globalism where, we're trying to treat everybody as one and all the countries as one, which is quite, in some respects quite good. But obviously the downside of that is that you have problems with supply chains and countries not making certain things, relying on other countries, and that becomes a problem. So I think after this, you're going to have a lot more countries starting to do their own thing, rely on their own skills to do medicine and all that kind of stuff, which is probably good. Disadvantage with that, of course, it makes it more tribal, and when you have more countries that are more tribal against themselves, then that's obviously a lot more likely to have war. So what they found in the past histories is that a smaller a community was, smaller a tribe was, if you like, the more likely they were to fight to defend that tribe. And so that's an interesting kind of a way of looking at things, that if you put people into groups and take out the individuality, then people tend to put you in a group rather than who you are, and just because you're in that group, then you're one of those, and then you're one of those, and that's not good for anybody. We're all individual, we all have different views on different things, and not all the same. So we should be treated that way, I think. So that's anyway my view on that. So if you disagree, that's fine, but I think it's a good one to say. I've been talking to a few people in the last few days. Obviously, we've had a few days now being open and stuff. Our weekend, we're about just over 50% normal as far as numbers through our gate goes. Now, I don't know whether that's down whether that was up a little bit to what's going to be because of obviously the first weekend open, or was that because the first weekend open, not many people came out, so we expect to get back to more normal? I do not know. Only time will tell that. I was talking to a Thai man this morning. He said they had a bit of a rush the first few days open, and then now it's just dead, just nobody. So let's just hope that that improves a bit for everybody and carries on. Also listened to the radio the other day, and they're talking about, obviously they're trying to promote tourism in domestic tourism, so people get out there, have their own little holiday and everything else, which hopefully it works, and I think it's a great idea. One of the callers on the radio show there was saying that he doesn't understand why, now that the international tourists have gone, why don't all locals just lower their price? They were just creaming it so much before. They should just lower their prices to make it more economical for the local person to go out there. And I was thinking, Jesus, that person doesn't know how to run a business, does he? And so, a lot of people, I think, don't understand that, when you're running a business, you basically, you put the price as low as you can to get the most people through while still making a profit. And we certainly don't think, oh, he's a tourist, so we're going to double the price and cream that one. It's not how it works. Certain places, of course, they do have a high season and a low season, but that's supply and demand. That's just normal business. But if you're suddenly charging $200 for a flash hotel and you can't afford it, so they're going to discount to $100 to try and sell it, I mean, that's fine for a bit of a lost leader, but you can't sustain that. It doesn't work. So you don't make any money. So why are you doing it? So don't expect to see a lot of lasting deals out there, or prices that were X are now half that or whatever forever, because it just can't happen that way. Basically, if businesses want to stay open that were doing the same stuff before, in order to make the same money, or just to break even, stay alive if you like, there's no way they can discount their prices too much. Otherwise, they would have been creaming it before, and you wouldn't see all their businesses closing and everything else, because obviously there's not enough money in the till. So just interesting enough how some people just perceive that somehow all business owners are just creaming it and as soon as the going gets tough, they just go. It's not actually how it works at all. So it'll be interesting to see there. So that's about all for tonight. I'm going to go and light a fire because it's going to get cold and stay warm, which is quite nice. And everybody, hope you're upbeat, back at work, active. Oh, just one more thing actually on that back to work thing. We did have a couple of inquiries and people asking, and certainly we had to find out about it as well. So we have a wage subsidy, which is not unemployment, it's a wage subsidy. So technically you're paying your employees wages in order to still be in your business when you need them. Now that we're back at level 2, if you need your workers and they decide they don't want to come back to work, unless their reason is valid, i.e. it's COVID related or they're sick or whatever, that's like saying they're resigning. So I have heard of stories that employers are trying to get the employees come back and the employees are refusing, saying no, they're happy where they are, thanks, I'm not working and getting paid. Well, in that scenario, we've got the advice from the Labour Department saying that if you offer your employee work and he refuses to take it, that's the same as them resigning, and then you do not have to pay their subsidy anymore. Obviously, you'd have to pay it back to the government and or use it for your other workers, but yeah, so they cannot refuse to come to work if you need them. So interesting concept, and it's sad really where a lot of people out there are thinking that this is just a holiday and I'm getting paid, I'm actually getting more money now in some cases than I was when I was working and don't have to work, so cruisy as. So no, that's not how that works. So just bear that in mind. Obviously the subsidy is going to go on for another 8 weeks for those who qualify. You have to show yourself, I think, 50% down on income, which for a lot of people that's going to be very easy to do considering income is virtually zero. And again, those people that you are paying that subsidy to must be able to come to work if you need them to do. So we're just getting some of our staff just doing mundane odd jobs, cleaning, all that kind of stuff that you would not normally do or concentrate on, but it gives them something to do and makes our workshop a little bit nicer as well. So until next time, have a good evening and we'll see you then. Bye bye.